Everybody, thanks for coming today. Can I just check quickly before we crack on? Is my mic level okay? Perfect. So let's crack on. So today, what we're going to look at is a bit more. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Is we're going to look at integrating Enado with Just Add Power. So the difference between Just Add Power, for those of you who aren't familiar, and something like a video matrix is Just Add Power is purely it's an IP-based product, so it's not HTTP-based, and also it's completely scalable. So it's you can have as many ins and as many outs as you want, and it's also all managed through a network switch. So what we're going to look at today is how you would integrate that with Enado, and I'll also show you how you would integrate additional IR devices via some of the add-ons that come that are available with Enado. Which I think, for instance, for you, Andy, I think the confusion over your order was whether you needed one of these, and I will now show you today how you actually, when you get one, how you integrate it with it. So let's crack on. So I'm going to switch to another project. So again, we're on a completely blank Enado project. So I want to start my new project. We're going to call it Just Add Power Demo. So create a new project. Okay, so first things first, as you remember from last week, the first thing we need to do is add some devices. So to do that, we need to look at what active devices we have. So what you're going to see is at the moment, once it loads, we've got no devices. There is no devices settings saved to the system. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our Just Add Power devices. Now to do this, because Just Add Power isn't like a fixed format system with a standard setup, the way we actually have to do a Just Add Power system is we have to import a config file. Now, this is a Just Add Power config file. Now, the way you get this is when you initially set up your Just Add Power system, you will almost always set it up with a program called Jad Config. So the reason we have this program is because Just Add Power relies on a network switch to work. What this software does is configures your network switch for you. So essentially, unlike in the old days, you have to do this manually, we have a tool that will actually configure your switch to work with Just Add Power. When it's finished configuring your switch, it will spit out a config file that looks like this. This is what we need to set up Just Add Power with Enado. There's a few key things here. So what you can see is basically what the config file contains is all the information about your Just Add Power system. So the interesting bits are what model of switch you've used, what the IP address of the switch is, what gateway the switch is on, how many transmitters is there in the system, how many receivers is there, and then you've also got your IP addresses for all your individual receivers and transmitters. So this file is really important. You can't do an Enado setup without this having been done. So we're going to get this file and we are going to import it. So what we're going to do is I've got this on my desktop. Oops. So I'm just going to drag from my desktop my config file. So now we've added in our network switch. Now the thing about Just Add Power is actually there isn't really a dedicated driver for Just Add Power. What it actually is the driver for the switch to tell the switch how to work with Just Add Power. There are some Just Add Power specific things. We're not going to be looking at those today. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add a couple of other devices just to show you. I'm adding in, let's say, I'm just going to add in, a skybox. Let's get the SkyQ box. So I'll add a SkyQ box. And I want to add in a TV. So let's just quickly add in a TV. So let's just add a TV in. Okay, great. So that's what we're going to work with today. So it's just a very simple setup. Now, what we're going to do next, now that we've done that, what we now need to do is now we need to look at our IO connectivity settings. So at the moment, I'm just repeating a few things I showed last week. But so what we need to do is our connectivity settings to tell the devices where they're being directed at. So now here is, firstly, we're going to add in our Ethernet devices. So we're going to add an Ethernet device. And in this case, we're going to add a custom device. Where's it gone? It's adding, let's give it a second. An Ethernet device. So this is, so it's now going to show us all the available Ethernet devices we could add to it. So at the moment, because the only information we've got downloaded on the system is for the Luxor switch, we're going to add that in. We're then going to put our IP address of the switch in. If you remember, switch IP address, oh, it's actually right already. So what we do, let's get our switch IP address, paste that in, the password. So this tells the Enado system how to interact with that network switch. So add that in. The other thing we add, in fact, I'm also just going to remove these adapters so I can show you how they interact. And something I've forgotten to do is I really should give it a name. We'll call it just add power. So we've got that, and then what we're also going to do is, because just add power itself doesn't, it does support IR control, but not in a way that we're going to use it for this system. For this system, we're going to use Enado's own IR control. So if you remember last week, I showed you how to get Enado to use HD Anywhere's own IR ports. Obviously, with just add power, we don't have that feature. So what you're going to add in is something called an N-link adapter. So an N-link adapter are basically adapters that let you add extra port controls into an Enado system. So in the case of this, there's a couple one, but we're going to use the IP to IR port, I think. It also does support the equipment made by Global Cache. So if you have any of that, it'll also work with that. But so, and then so we're going to add an N-link in. Now, this is going to be for our Skybox. Now, normally what you'd do, obviously I haven't actually got one plugged in at the moment, so I'm just going to, you would normally, there's Enado have a piece of software available that lets you scan your network for devices. So we're just going to pretend we've done that and we've found our let's say 200. So that's the address we found of our IP to IR device. So we're going to add that in. So what that is that is an additional IR device that lets us also direct commands at that. So now we've set up all our connectivity settings. What we are then going to do is now we need to add some rooms. Now I showed you this last week, so I'm not going to go into what I'm doing here in too many details, but let's just quickly set this up. So let's just call it living room. Okay, let's just create that. Just quickly give it an icon so we know what it is. What icon shall we use? I think somewhere down here there's a sofa or something like that. Let's just go with this. So, living room. Great. So, and then we'll add another room. Just quickly add in kitchen. I should make these very quickly. Okay, add our kitchen. Cool. Right, so those are our rooms. Very quickly, sort of cheap and cheerful one of those. I haven't taken much time to do those or resize the buttons or anything because it's not relevant for what we're doing at the moment. So here's our room. So we can navigate into that. So what we're now going to do is we're now going to set up a command. So we want to set up a new activity. So in this case, it's going to be what we're going to do. So we're going to have an activity. We're going to call it Watch Sky. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to give it a quick picture. Give it a Sky logo. Now, here's what I do. So for this command, first thing we need to do is we need to switch the just add power to the skybox. So we're going to add our command in. So now that we've set it up, what we do is on our Luxor switch, you will see that we've now got all our commands. Now the way it's got this is it's pulled this in from our config file. So if we had a much bigger just add power system, we'd have all the possible options for that. So it's actually it's pulled this in from that config file we got earlier. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to add a command in to turn the skybox on. And it's going to be a power command. So here's the key bit. So what you're looking for is the IP to IR has 3 IR ports out. So we need to choose which one of these is connected to that. So we're going to tell it we want it to go out of that IR port, and it will send commands out of that port. So that is a very simple guide to how you would set up just add power to work with this. Now, obviously with bigger systems, when you're doing bigger Enado systems, what you're basically doing is you're going to be adding in more of these extra adapters depending on what you're doing. So if you're doing just a power system, you'll need a lot more of these IP to IR devices. For instance, if you've got TVs that need controlling, and there's a whole variety. So this is a wired one, but there is, for instance, a oh, whoops, sorry, my colleague has just pointed out that I've sent the switch ports to the wrong. Yeah, I haven't added that in. Sorry. Well done, Chris. Noticed that I hadn't actually. I've sent a switch command, but I hadn't told it where it's supposed to go. Well spotted. So essentially, there's a bunch of different add-ons, and unfortunately, on our website, they're all having their photography done at the moment. But I'm just going to walk you through quickly what the different add-ons are. So. These are the main boxes with their different types of contracts and things like that for licenses. But these are a few different. So the devices you really want to look at. So there's the Enado NLink Wi-Fi. So this is a single IR repeater that's designed to go behind TVs. So this doesn't require a wired connection. It'll just sit on the Wi-Fi network and be able to deliver IR commands to a TV. Then you've got the same thing again, but with a PoE version. So if there's an option having PoE, you can do that. And then you've also got one that's IP but doesn't have PoE. You've got one for RS485. I haven't actually seen the relay yet, but I'm guessing that's just a contact closure switch that will send feedback back. And then the other interesting ones are you also get different emitters. So for instance, this is a 3-way emitter. This lets you control 3 devices from one port. So as long as the 3 devices are different, you can control multiple devices from one IR port. Obviously, if you've got a setup where you've got multiple skyboxes, for instance, you're going to need to have different ports for each skybox because the commands are going to be the same. If you've, for instance, got a skybox, an Apple TV, and a CCTV system, then actually you'll be able to use a single 1x3 IR port to control those. Yeah, and unfortunately, I'd like to show you some pictures, but they're having all the photography done at the moment as they're relaunching Enado as its own brand. So apart from that, that is essentially it. It's very easy to set up Enado to adjust our power. One of the reasons we were so keen to get Enado into our sort of portfolio of products is we really felt like we would like to have a nice, simple, easy to use control system for just our power, because there wasn't really anything quite right. You know, obviously just our power works great with Control 4, Crestron, whatever, but often the budget isn't there for that, and we felt like we really wanted something. And Enado has been perfect. Just to show you, we haven't got the project file for ISE, have we? That's a shame. But yeah, we showed it at our trade shows. We ran our entire stand at ISE off Enado. We decided to use Enado over RTI, which we normally use RTI in our stands, but this year we made the decision that we were confident enough that Enado was as good and was easier to set up. So we decided not to use RTI and standard. We actually used Enado for the whole thing, and it was great. So this has been a bit of a quick one, largely because we covered a lot of this last week. But essentially, if anyone's got any questions or anything you'd like me to walk them through in Enado, now is the time to ask. So Carlton, your question, and here's when you get a link. You'll actually, when this is over, you'll get a link to rewatch this again. So you can watch as many times as you want. We also put them all up on our YouTube channel. So if you search for OneAV on YouTube, you'll see it. But yeah, as basically you log into Webinar Ninja with the email address you used to register for this talk. I'm just going to stop copying my screen because it's a bit trippy. Hold on. There we go. Let's turn that off. So you will get this video. So let's look at questions. Yeah, absolutely. If you let us know, either I can come to you, or if you want to come here and see a demo of it, that's not a problem at all. We can absolutely show you that. So Andy's questions: most support for global cache IP to IR. I don't know if it works with the contact closure cable. I know it definitely does with sort of the standard Flex iTouch stuff. It does work with that because that is actually what the Enado branded ones are under the hood. So yes, I suspect that it does, but I will confirm that for you for sure. I'm setting some TV demo. Can I actually via IP? Yes, absolutely. So your question of you selected a Samsung TV in this demo, can Enado control TVs via IP directly instead of using IR? Yes, they can. If there is a driver for it, or you want to do the driver yourself. And as I said, it doesn't even need to be a driver. You can manually just, if you know the command to send to that TV to turn it on over IP, in that commands menu. So in this section, so let's go here, edit properties, commands. I believe if you add a device as a So I think the way it works is, so if you go into libraries, active device commands, you add the Skybox so you can add devices manually here. So you add the Skybox manually, or let's say it's a TV, you would add the device here, and then if you go into IO devices, you put the TV and its IP address in IO devices, and then you'll be able to manual trigger commands. I'm just going to check with my colleague Chris if that's correct. So if you knew the IP strings for a device, but there wasn't a pre-existing driver, let's say you just want to send a power on command to a TV, how would you do that?
So the best way to do that is obviously, like you said, with under the IO connectivity settings.
Yeah.
You will need to add the Samsung as a Ethernet device.
Yeah, let's just show that quickly so we can explain that. So what you would do is we need to first add the TV as a device. So add custom device. And this is all assuming there isn't a pre-existing IP driver for that device. So let's do this assuming someone hasn't already done this or isn't already one in the system, but imagine you're doing this for yourself. So you add the device, so edit it. We'd have to have added it as a...
It'll be a brand new device.
Yeah, it's a brand new device, so there won't be anything in there. So let's say we know the IP address of the TV. Let's just say it's .5.201. We know what port it needs to be.
Depending on the device there, that you can set a default protocol, basically what Samsung would use for an IP command, basically.
Yeah.
How it sends commands and what port number it's going to be.
Yeah, I see. So yeah, so essentially Samsung IP will work on a certain port, and there'll probably also be some like forward parameters before the actual command. So can you set those, when you set the parameters, are you basically setting what commands are always sent first?
Yeah, so it does vary, but particularly the Luxor switch, obviously there are parameters of that.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to type in basically the username and password, and that's all included with that Jad Config file. But with the Samsung TV, yes, so you add in the Ethernet device, and then if you go back to Enado real quick.
So we've added in...
Yeah, so once you add in that device, obviously
let's call it Samsung TV. Hold on. Let's just change that. Okay, so we've got our TV. We're calling it Samsung IP.
You want to go back to the main sort of menu.
Let it save that change. Okay, yeah, done that right. Okay, so we've done that.
If you go into Tools,
Yep.
Device Command Creator.
Okay, this is a bit I haven't looked at yet.
Basically,
so we're all learning today. I haven't looked at this yet.
Yeah,
my colleague Chris has, because he did it. He
so
designed
if
our system for the stand.
Manufacturer and you hit the drop down, basically you've already got, you got your Luxor and you got your Samsung. Now, obviously that's an IR. That's an IR command. It'll have it select here. Basically, that is indeed an IR command, and you'll see default properties over towards the right, just over here. Which will basically is your default properties that you set it as an Ethernet device, port number, and the basically protocol it uses to send the command will be included there. You can manually set that here if you so wish. That's fine. But if we take, for example, if we go to Luxor, obviously this is basically these are IP commands. And basically what we have here is a string of IP commands with carriage returns. That will allow basically the Luxor switch to be sent, and that's basically the same method what Samsung would be.
So in the case of this is probably quite a complex command, because it is for just a power. I imagine a TV on command is probably
a lot simpler
than that.
So
essentially all you do, so when you create, so to answer Andy's question, basically in short, if there wasn't a pre-existing IP driver, as long as you have the API for that device and you know what command needs to be there, you would literally just create the command for the device, and that would become an available command for that IP device. So we're working with it because obviously Enado was initially designed around just whoops, didn't have screen sharing on there. Let's quickly go back to that again. Whoops, that was a blunder. Right, so what we were showing was essentially there is this page called Device Command Creator. So once you've so essentially this lets you manually, so this shows you, for instance, here we're just seeing what a switching command for just a power, like, so on a fundamental level, this is a switching command for just a power. Similarly, if you knew what the switching command or the power on command was for a TV, you would just add the command in manually if there wasn't a pre-existing driver. The bit I hadn't got to then was that Enado are basically working very hard to start adding in IP drivers. This was a system that was obviously designed originally just to work with Wirestorm matrices, so now they're expanding it. We're at a very early stage when they're building their library of commands. So it's getting updated every day. Like as commands are created, we're creating driver packages for stuff. But what they've made sure to do is to give you a very robust means of doing it yourself. This is the real difference between something like Question on a Control 4, where fundamentally, if you know, it's obviously nice to have the driver, and eventually, give it a year and there'll be drivers for everything. But at this stage, obviously, there's something we don't have IP control of. We've made it incredibly easy just to add that in yourself. It's literally, as simple as could be. This isn't that complicated. It's just, what's the brand? Where's it going to? What ports are being sent to? What is the command you want to send? It will send it. So try to make that as simple as possible, so that you can create commands that aren't already there. But as I say, always working on drivers, always writing new drivers. This stuff's coming along all the time. Any other questions? No, lovely. Okay. Yeah, sorry, Andy. I chased someone yesterday. I know there's some confusion. I had to get straight in my head what the situation was with the additional adapters you need. But I think I've just sent George a message actually asking him just to finalise that with you now that we know exactly what it is you need. So he should be in touch shortly. Okay, great. All right, thanks a lot, guys. If anyone's staying around for Aurora, I will see you in about half an hour.